Hello farmers and aspiring farmers, welcome to yet another informative edition of your program, where today we are looking at dairy production here in Zimbabwe, the dairy enterprises that most of our Zimbabwean farmers aspire or are inspired to undertake. However, there are some things that you need to look at, which include your feeding regimen, the various breeds that are well adapted to the Zimbabwean environment. And to discuss this and more, I've taken the liberty of once again inviting Mark Hook, where we are going to be looking at his own enterprise as a case study to inspire or even teach those who are looking to venture into dairy production. Mark, thank you so much for joining us today.
Afternoon, Watson. Thank you.
Yes, a brief history of the herd that we are in today and the various breeds that you have within your herd.
Watson, we are little infants in the dairy industry.
Okay.
We only started 6 years ago. We started with an embryologist, Dr. Percy Sharp from New Zealand. His dream was to breed an adapted dairy cow for Zimbabwe, when we've called the project Mombi Yeho Mai. So that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to breed an adapted dairy cow for the Zimbabwe rural areas.
Okay.
And with his help, we picked 10 Friesland cows. Before we got 1 liter of milk from them, 10 Friesland heifers. Before we got 1 liter of milk from them, 2 had died. And then we got some T-Rex cows in, and then we obviously got the embryos from New Zealand. So we have some Friesland embryos, some Jersey embryos, and what they call in New Zealand a Kiwi cross, which is more adapted to the green pastures. So that's what we've been trying to do for 6 years. We are getting some results. Our aim is to breed a dairy cow with 75% dairy genetics and 25% adapted African genetics. We've been using a lot of Mashona cross on the dairy cows and in some of our embryo work and AI work. But we've actually found that the Mashona is so adapted to harsh conditions that as soon as you take the calf away, the mother often dries off. Not with all of them, but with a lot of them. So we've tried with some boron semen, and because they've been milked for thousands of years in Kenya, they don't have that problem with drying off. So you can take the calf away and the mother will still give you milk.
Okay, now Mark, I understand that given your years, the 6 years that you've been in the dairy industry, you've learned and made your own case studies and even your own work study where you are looking at what works for you as a dairy farmer, specifically to your own farm. What is your management and production styles, looking at what you are doing here and the advantages and why you opted for this style that we are seeing here?
So Watson and I, what happened was we had 22 hectares of a flay area that we couldn't plant crops in, so we wanted to make it productive. So we planted pasture and we grazed it on a regenerative basis. So it hasn't had fertilizer at all for 6 years. It hasn't been ripped, it hasn't been ploughed. We did roam harrow, some on the top to get the seeds in, but we grazing it on a regenerative principle where the dairy cows move every single day, every 24 hours, and they're within 2 electric fences, and we work out the area and look at the growth of the grass and see how quickly they must move through summer, because summer the grass seems to get away from us, and then winter we have to slow down or we take off the dry cows or something like that, because the grass is growing slower in winter, although you can grow ryegrass in winter to help you get over that lower production through winter. So we've tried to do it on a very, very low cost, low input. The grass must be 80% of their food. When they go up to milking, they eat our own mixed ration. So sort of low input. We're not going to be producing what they do in the very big mechanized dairies, but we believe this is a model that the rest of Zimbabwe could follow. Yeah.
Given your experience from what you were saying that you even began, where you say that your program started with what you termed off as Mombeye Omai, looking at the breeds that you have today in your farm, I can tell just by looking by observation, we have different breeds within this herd. Which one would you want to highlight? Or are there any specific characteristics that stand out within each and every breed? Is it the level of output? Is it the level or the carcass or whatever that you look at when you are looking at your dairy cattle? Are there any specific attributes that you might want to highlight that speak to production and productivity of milk?
Yeah. So Watts and I, we want a low-cost animal. So our Holsteins and Frieslands are just a bit too big. You'll see them all there standing under the shade, whereas other cattle are out grazing. So we're looking for a low input and a moderate sort of medium output animal, but we want an animal that doesn't die. So we're really looking for longevity, because bringing up the heifers until they start milking takes another 2 lactations before they've paid for themselves.
Okay.
So out of that heifer, you've got to milk it another 2 lactations before you've paid the raising cost of her. So if you have animals that you have to keep replacing, you're not going to make much profit at all.
Okay.
So we're looking really for animals, low cost, moderate input, but that are going to survive. They're not going to die. That's our main thing. A lot of the dairy industry looks at liters per cow, but it's more a holistic business, And if you're only looking at liters per cow, you're going to spend a lot of money on inputs. And if she only survives 2 or 2.5 lactations, you've got to have a lot of heifers coming through to replace her.
Looking at the lifespan of a cow that is giving you milk, what are we looking at roughly under good conditions, everything being normal and being taken care of by your employees or your team? Normally, what are we looking at within either months or years, saying that I have really maximized on my investment? What are we looking at the lifespan of a cow that is giving you milk?
Well, so now what we would look for is a cow that's going to last the longest. But what I'm saying is, if we could get anything over 6 lactations, she's definitely paid for herself and she's definitely making you a profit.
Okay.
You can get the odd cow that can go up to 10 lactations, she'll be 12 years old, and that sort of thing. But anything over 6 lactations, I think we would be happy with. She's definitely paid for herself and made you a profit. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Mark, for that. There you had it, viewers. We are looking at the various breeds that we have here at Dunside Farm as a case study to motivate and even educate those who are looking to invest in dairy cattle production. We're going to go on a short commercial break, but right back with this and more in the second segment. Stay tuned. Thank you, farmers, for staying tuned to Agricultural New Directions Agribusiness in support of Vision 2030, where we are coming to you today from Dunside Farm in Mashonaland West, Zwimba North constituency in Ward 30, where we are looking at dairy production, a case study which can be used to educate other Zimbabwean farmers who are inspired or have been motivated to venture into this kind of enterprise. Now, viewers, encourage you to be a part of these conversations. Feel free to get in touch with the producer, Wadzanai Manyore, so 0772807506. Alternatively, you can like our Facebook page, Agribusiness with Wadzanai. Make a follow-up on this episode and more, and leave your comments and suggestions. They are most welcome to us. Our YouTube channel is Agribusiness with Wadzanai. We're also now available on X, formerly known as Twitter. It's at Agribusiness110. On LinkedIn, we have a growing, thriving community where most of these discussions and updates do take place. Our profile there is at Wadzanai Manyore. Now, in this very segment, I've taken the liberty of inviting Liam, and he's going to be educating us in line with their management style here, looking at nutrition, diseases control, sanitation, etc. Liam, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much.
Yes. People would want to know the type of nutrition that you are feeding into your head, given the various breeds that we have, and even maybe the ages or the sizes that we have. Your nutrition, aside from the pastures that we have here, with regards to supplements, what will you be looking for? Either proteins, either carbohydrates. What will be the source of those minerals that you'll be looking for in the supplementary feed?
So as you've pointed out that nutrition is possibly the most important part of dairy production. Without the food, you'll produce no milk. And so it changes throughout their lifetime. So the young calves would require probably quite a high protein diet, quite a concentrated one. They only eat a small amount, but you want them to keep growing really well so that they can reach their target weight as soon as possible, and that means they can calve by 2 years old. If you grow them up too slow, you'll be calving quite a long time after 2, and that cost of production then of producing that heifer, pregnant heifer, is higher, and you then fall behind. It will require more milk to pay them back, and research has shown that the older they are and slower growth, if they are a bit stunted and they're short, you'll end up with less milk, and that affects your profitability again. Within the milk cows here, they're kept 24/7 on this pasture, and they move every day. They get this strip of grazing. For the most part, our pastures are regen, so they're just the bush grass here that we have added a bit of improved varieties into it. So we've added some clover, there's lots of kukuyu, stargrass, and depending on what grew. So the pastures are all different. There's certain sections that are drier and more gravelly, certain sections that stay wetter, they have more flay. And so different sections, like here, we've got a lot of kukuyu, and further on behind us over there where it's drier, those areas grow more stargrass. So depending on what section of the pasture, they can have quite a variety of feed. And then we feed a supplement, a milk meal when they milk, and that has roughly been based on 500 grams per liter of milk that they produce. So if they're producing 10 liters of milk, they get 5 kgs of feed. It doesn't always work that simply. In practice, we found the bigger Frisian animals, we actually had to feed more feed. They were getting probably about 700 grams per liter of milk. To try keep them in condition, they need a lot more food for maintenance, for their larger frame size. And the smaller breeds like the Jerseys, and then our crossbreds, the Boran crosses, Mashona crosses, needed a little less feed. A lot of the beef crosses as well seem to be a bit more efficient. If you overfeed them that supplement, they seem to get very fat and stop producing as much milk. So it's a bit of a balance where you've got to find, sometimes even individually per each cow, to say, right, this one, feed it less so that she doesn't get too fat and stop producing, and then others, okay, feed more so that they produce more milk.
Now, Liam, looking at the various breeds that you have here, are there any ones that you want to point out and say these ones give us more output, more liters per given period? And also just looking at what we have in our society or our industry, there are people generally, our organizations and companies, that they look more into the fat content of the milk. Let us touch a bit on that, the breeds that we have and their output levels, as well as the fat content of the milk. Is it because you are giving it more feed that it gives you milk with high fat, or it is to do with genetics?
So it is to do with both. If you haven't got enough nutrients in the feed, they're not going to produce as well. So in particular, lower energy in the feed, you won't get as many liters, as well as you won't get as much fat content. And we've seen it here when we separate the milk, when we're in a good section of pasture and they've had lots of good quality grass to eat, there's lots of cream in the milk, and then the sections of pasture where there's not good quality grass, there's less cream in the milk. But genetically, your Jersey crosses or Jerseys produce a lot more cream as a percentage of their milk production, and your Frisians produce a lot less cream, but your Frisians produce more milk as a whole.
Okay.
So, and again, it ties in with feed. if you can have a Frisian cow and think, okay, I'm going to get more food, more milk out of it, but you've got to feed it more food.
Okay.
A Jersey cow, okay, I'm going to get less milk, but I don't have to feed it as much food and to get a good outcome of milk. So it's a fine balance that you've got to find within your breeding.
Looking at issues surrounding insect pest diseases, management and their control, what sort of chemicals do you normally use that you might want to highlight, or your dipping schedule, or the various activities that you incorporate to ensure that you are maintaining a healthy breed that is giving off good quality milk? What is it like for you here?
So in terms of pests and diseases, the big thing in Zimbabwe, or in Africa I suppose, is ticks. And we have found that the dairy animals are a lot more susceptible than the beef animals. And so one should religiously dip.
Okay.
Without it, you will end up with dead animals. So we dip religiously once a week. And in times when, especially when it's now a change of season, it's just warming up, the brown ear tick seems to have a bit of a boom. And we could even go to every 5-day dipping just to ensure that those brown ear tick cycle gets broken and they're not causing any issues. We just use the dip from our local suppliers.
Manufacturers and suppliers.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you so much, Liam, for that. I like that you allude the fact of making sure that your cattle are tick-free. If they are infested and if not managed properly, you end up with dead cattle and no milk for you, meaning that you've lost your entire investment. It was a pleasure having you with us today.
Thank you so much.
There you heard it, viewers. We're going to go on a short commercial break. We'll be right back with this and more in the third and final segment. Stay tuned. Thank you, farmers, for staying tuned to Agricultural New Directions, Agribusiness in support of Vision 2030, where we are looking at the issues of breeds when it comes to dairy production. You would find that various breeds do give various outputs with regards to liters per given period, which is very important, essential for farmers to take note of if they are going to be parting with their money, to ensure that they have a good return on investment, given that this is a business. Agriculture is a formidable business, and dairy production is one of those enterprises that you need to be vigilant and diligent when making such investments. And this segment, we have reserved it for markets. You might be good with your production, but when it comes to consumption and the uptake of your product, regardless of its good quality, there might be some challenges and pitfalls in there. Mark, we are here in the third and final segment. Welcome back.
Thank you, Wadzai. Thank you.
Yes. Normally, what are the market expectations? Those organizations or the individuals that come in to purchase, normally what are they looking for when they are saying, you know what, would want to purchase milk from Mark?
Wadzai, their expectations of course they want good quality. They don't want milk that's awful or anything or dirty or anything. So the customer always wants good quality and at the best price.
Okay.
At the best price.
And the issues of high and low fat content, how does it affect a farmer or affect the revenue that is coming into their coffers?
Yeah. So Wads and I, in our case study, we've tried to produce our own products, lacto, wakakura, yogurt, and because of that, what Liam was talking about, we need that fat content to produce that cream, butter, yogurt, and that sort of thing. So that we find in the cream and butter we can market easily. The lacto, the wakakura, the yogurts and that we battle to market at a profit. So we find in our packaging is very, very expensive.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm going to work in cents per liter. A little lacto packet costs you about 8 cents per liter to put it in. And you spent a lot of money on food and irrigation and everything right in that. So we finding the packaging is very expensive. But I think our biggest thing we've learned is location. We are 30 kilometers from Bankert, 25 kilometers from Matorishanga, and we've even sent lacto up to Mvurwi. But the actual transporting dairy products around, you need big volumes, and you have to be close to market. So the new dairy farmer must always look at location. Where's his market? Where am I going to sell my products? So that has been our biggest downfall, I think, is our location. We're just not close enough to the market.
Okay. Now, looking at issues surrounding consumption, Mark, I know that consumption plays a critical role when it comes to the market. It is whether what people decide to eat. Here in Zimbabwe, in your geographical location, what would be the major highlights of the activities or the trends or the tests in preferences or even income of the people? How does it affect or impact consumption, which then leads to your marketing? How is that chain? Just elaborate on that.
Yeah. So, Wads and I, like I said, our packaging is very expensive, but just our production costs in Zimbabwe are very expensive. Mm-hmm. And then our local market around here really hasn't got a big disposable income to buy a packet of lacto every day, or cheese or yogurts and that sort of stuff. So the disposable income in the rural areas is very low. Mm-hmm. So to move a volume of dairy products is hard.
Okay.
The other thing we got to consider is power and zest and that. So dairy products obviously need refrigeration, and someone might buy milk for the week and then they have a power cut and they haven't got power for 18 hours and the milk goes off or something like that. So I think that's why a lot of the rural areas buy boxed milk, because it just doesn't go off, and that's
or the powdered form.
Yeah, or the powdered form, boxed milk or the powdered form. So for new dairy farmers coming into the business, please take all that into consideration. Your location, if you're in a rural area, I don't think the demand's there, but not for volume.
Oh, okay.
The demand is there, but not for volume.
It doesn't match the output.
Yes, it doesn't match the output.
Finally, as we close, your word of advice, your sentiments, or even something that you might want to say that can influence the market or the policymakers, just as off of your experience in the dairy industry, where you are saying you've had your own experiences, you've experienced your own pitfalls and challenges, just to try and influence policy, or to those who are watching, just to make sure that we are in line and accepting and appreciating your experience, your value within the dairy industry. What are your sentiments as we close?
Yeah, Wads and I think if we're going to have dairy cattle in the rural areas, they have to be adapted. Like I said, we bought 10 Friesland and 2 died before we got 1 litre of milk. So if we're going to send dairy cattle out into the rural areas, it could possibly be the most depressing thing that could happen.
Oh, okay.
You spend money on a dairy cow for yourself and your family, and then it dies.
It doesn't give you even a litre.
Yeah. So we definitely need adapted dairy cattle going out into the rural areas, and like I say, if someone wants to go into it commercially, I think our cost of production in Zimbabwe is too high. Stock feeds are too high. He's got to learn, or she has got to learn, to make their own stock feeds, grow their own either Napier fodder or Bono grass, or use pods or use chicken litter or something, but try and make their food as affordable as possible.
Okay.
Because one thing that will happen, if you don't feed a dairy cow, she's not going to fall pregnant. How do you get milk? She's got to fall pregnant, she's got to have a calf, then she'll give you milk. So if you don't look after her, she's not going to fall pregnant.
And no milk for you.
Yeah, and you're not going to get any milk. So that's why we're trying to breed an adapted dairy cow that can eat Zimbabwean food.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Mark, for that. It was a pleasure having you with us today.
Yeah. Thank you, Watson. Thank you.
On that note, we have come to the end of this episode, where Mark was emphasizing on the importance of adaptability, where he is saying if you're going to have these cattle, dairy cattle within rural settings or communal areas, they need to adapt to the environment. They need to feed off of the indigenous grass of Zimbabwe. From me, your host was Naimanyora. I'm also on Instagram. It's at Wadzi110, and the crew behind the scenes. Have yourselves a fabulous evening. Thank you for watching.